there already. Excellent. Right, okay, the long-awaited result. Well, in a place like this, you would expect that the vote before the debate would have been overwhelmingly against the motion. 83% of you voted against the motion before the debate, with 17% of you, hang your heads in shame, whoever you were, 17% of you arguing for the motion. That was before the debate. So, drum roll please, the winning team is the against team. Who managed to increase their lead from 83% of the vote to 88% of the vote. Please, take a bow. Come to the centre. Do as you wish. So I'd like to just again thank my condolences to the losing team. So thank you very much again to all the debaters. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much. So now we enter the last part of this day before the cocktail, of course. And it's our great honor to receive Florent Menegaux, the CEO of Michelin. So I will not be long on his bio, just to say that Florent entered Michelin in 1997, and ever since climbed the ladder, so to speak, was COO in 2014, and the successor to Jean-Dominique Sénard in 2019, and enters his second mandate as we speak. And so what we'll be doing in this fireside conversation is just to ask Florent a series of questions. So Lisa Baudot from the accounting department at HEC Paris will accompany me in asking questions, and basically we'll be alternating the questions on a few topics that we have prepared. And right after that, the mic will be yours so that you can directly answer questions to Florent. So Florent, again, thank you so much for making time. We know that today was a very long day, but it's not even over, as I think I know. So thank you so much. So the first question is about the Michelin Purpose way. And it's try just to, so the purpose of Michelin, just for you all, is we care about giving people a better way forward. And wanted you to tell us about how Michelin's contemporary purpose came to be, and to what extent does this purpose personally resonate with you in terms of your origin story and background?
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I'm very pleased to be with all of you tonight. So the story came, first of all, we had in 2006 the death of Edouard Michelin. And it was the end of a family journey heading Michelin. And we had an incarnated purpose through the family. And suddenly in 2006, Edouard died, and suddenly we felt something special within Michelin at that time. We were a kind of lost. So it took us a few years just to manage, run the business. And at that time I was running some worldwide operation in dealing with passenger car tires. And I was visiting our activities in the US. And the head of the US at that time told me, we had a fire chat. And he told me, but you know, Florent, I cannot motivate myself with value creation. And it was a kind of waha moment. We are in 2011 at that time. And he said, yes, of course. Value creation is a survival kit, but it's not the purpose. It's not the reason why we are together. It is just the reason why we can continue to be together, but it's not the reason why we are together. And then he asked me the question, he said, why are we together? And then I was stuck by saying, hey, it's a good question, but how can you summarize this? So we have entered into a lengthy discussion, and then we have started to work on this subject to say, okay, how can we define, now that the family is not in charge of the group anymore, how can we define why we are together working at Michelin? So we started to work, and we have started to say, okay, now plenty of people within Michelin know why they come every day to Michelin. But let's ask them. So we went through several thousands of people around the world, asking them the simple question, why do you wake up every morning working for Michelin? And after that, we came with a very lengthy stuff, plenty of slides, etc. We went with Bright House that told us, if you're not able to exchange your purpose when you cross each other exiting an elevator, it's not a good purpose. So we have started to synthesize everything, and we came with this very strong idea that resonates a lot in everyone at Michelin, is we care about giving people a better way forward. So if you take the simple version, it says, we are interested in mobility, the physical mobility, moving stuff or people from A to B. But if you think more about it, it's also, we are interested in people development. And actually, we see Michelin as a giant people development platform that does a lot of stuff. We do tires, we do generative tissues to repair the human body, we do the next generation of glue that will use different type of molecules, but the aim is to develop people. And when we care about giving people a better way forward, is we want people, when they join Michelin, and when they have their journey within Michelin, to grow, to develop, and to become, François Michelin at his time was saying, become who you are. And that's a hell of a journey, actually. And that's why it resonates with me, because when I joined Michelin, I was looking more like in the picture. And I've transformed with Michelin, through Michelin, by Michelin, and it's a nice exchange. And when I joined Michelin, I thought I would stay for 1 year, maybe 2. And you see, 28 years after, I'm still there. I'm still discovering many things, and we live that purpose every day in everything we do.
Thank you for taking us through that journey. And I think we'd like to keep on the topic of what it is to incarnate business and purpose. Michelin's purpose makes social movement, sustainable movement, a foundation of societal progress. And it's said that sustainable movement is what drives and motivates the company to develop products that are safe, that are efficient, and that are environmentally friendly. Michelin also aims to engage and meet stakeholder expectations while respecting their own values and beliefs. With all of that in mind, and our theme being navigating dissent, according to you, does stating and executing purpose around sustainable movement generate or appease dissent?
It depends whether you define your purpose just to put some name on the walls and then you do something else. Or you just express and you use this purpose just to arbitrate when at some critical moments what you do. And that's what we do at Michelin. But very often we put too many things in the purpose. The key issue in a corporation is, how do you move from stakes? The world is moving very fast, the technology is impacting us, we have a lot of competition, we have a lot of issues here and there, we have climate problems, etc. Stakes into action. And in a company like Michelin, we spend our time moving from stake to act, and then act to stakes. But when you're across 175 countries around the world, different cultures, 132,000 people, how do you make sure that this movement between stakes and action makes sense? and it's coordinated and it's moving in the right direction. That becomes very critical, and therefore you need many other things than the purpose to move from stakes into action. You need to define ambitions. You need to translate your purpose into action. That's what we call our dream. We have a dream defined for 2050. And you also need a strategy. But the strategy is not the mission. The strategy is how do you allocate your means to be able to fulfill your dream. And the dream is just the translation of your purpose at a defined moment in the future. But then if you do only that, you've done nothing. Because at the end, a corporation is just made by people. It's made for people, and it's made through people. And without people, corporations do not exist. And we tend to forget that. We tend to think corporations is just a set of machines that work together, a set of processors, AI will replace human bodies. A corporation just made by AI, what is the use? How useful is it for human beings? I'm not sure it is interesting. So therefore, if you think about that, you may have a right purpose, you may have a good dream, you may have ambitions, you may have a strategy, and you may execute nothing. Because you need to have, in parallel, people that agree to do it. And in order to have that, you need to have a set of values. You need to be very explicit what are the values that motivate people. And then you also need a leadership model. And at Michelin, we don't define leadership just for the managers. We say everyone is in a leadership position. So the shop floor agent behind his machine is making decision. When he decides, I want to do this or this, he's making decision, or she is making decisions. Same at every level in the corporations. So we've defined a leadership model for everyone in Michelin. We want everyone to behave as leaders. And then we've said there is a subset of this leadership just for managers. And if you summarize at Michelin, we say, because we care, our leadership model is I care. I care means I do things for myself and for the other one. And for the managers, we say to them, take care. Because we care, I care, and take care. That's very simple, but very efficient, and that's what drives us. And if you don't have that in front of the strategy, you achieve nothing.
Thank you. Coming back to this idea of reinventing sustainable movement, and as an accounting professor, I'm quite interested in the strategic mission, strategic vision, in fact, of Michelin in Motion, where the company aims to generate 20 to 30% of revenue from non-tire activities by 2030, and that's an increase from less than 5% of revenue from non-tire activities in 2020. So what role has this initiative, Michelin in Motion, what role has that played in advancing the company's commitment to sustainable mobility and also in reducing environmental impact?
So you may think that Michelin is building tires. It is true, but what is a tire? If I were to ask you, how do you define a tire without using the word tire? Then you will be faced with what we have been faced with, is we have started to think about, okay, what do we do? Because Michelin, in our history, we have built cars, the 2 chevaux up to the SM, have been built by Michelin engineers. We have built trains, the Michelin is Michelin. We have built cars, train, airplanes, we have built many things. So you cannot summarize Michelin as a tire maker. So we have looked at this tire differently, and we said, okay, now, what is a tire? And actually, a tire is the ultimate life-changing composite. It's very difficult to make a tire, but it's a composite. It's just a very smart assembly of 200 materials that cohabited together for a very long time in a Michelin tire. less time in other tires, but in Michelin they live a lot together. And in order for them to live a long time together, you need to master how to build composites. And we've defined ourselves as we are building the world leader in life-changing composites. Tires is included in that, but we do many things that takes us into the medical, into aerospace, into many other areas where the same know-how, the same technical know-how will apply. And it fulfills our dream because we think when we will have redefine what Michelin is, and we have changed the market because the life-changing composite does not exist as a sector today. So we are defining this sector for the benefit of the world.
So Lisa said that the theme today is navigating descent, about purpose, and Michelin has been in the media for several months now, from the discussion about the fair wage policy that it extends to everybody in the group. You said 132,000 people, 170 something countries, so that's a lot. Until the recent video that made you even more popular than you are, because for the non-French speaking people, Florent was actually at a commission in the parliament, in the Senate, and this was recorded and was followed by many, many different people about how to make business in France and the cost of labor and other economic considerations for the French competitiveness. So between this fair wage policy and this video, there was also the announcement of some plant shutdowns in France. And therefore, the natural question, because of the theme of today, it's how does Michelin address the tension between financial performance, ensuring the fair wage commitment is maintained consistently across all regions, and these other events about being competitive in France and the plant shutdowns.
So in France in particular, we tend to think that corporations are like a museum. They should stay forever the way they are. Actually, a corporation is a living body. So like your body, we have cells that are created and others that die. If you want your business to be there in the next century, and my job is to make sure that Michelin is prepared for the next century, you need to accept the fact that things that have been built that were true 50 years ago may not be true today. But it's the same spirit that says, as we care about giving people a better way forward, we want that everyone, from the lowest salary to the highest salary, can live properly from the work they do. And we don't pay for the transaction. We just indemnify people for the time they spent developing themselves at Michelin. However, it doesn't say that we can keep every activity in the same place. So when we take the announcement we've made in Vannes or Cholet, those plants were created, the one 70 years ago, the other one 50 years ago. They've been created in market conditions that were completely different. The market have moved, have changed, and what we could do in those locations could not, we had to completely reshuffle and reinvest totally in those plants. And if we had to rebuild a new plant, we would not build it in those locations because the market have moved in different places. So then it's the same spirit that says, in the same social responsibility that says, everyone is paid at a minimum at a decent salary that enables a family of four just to envisage living, pay scholarship, medical coverage, and transportation, and so that they can project themselves in the job they performed. It's one salary for four people. It's the same spirit that says when we drive a restructuring, we do it in a certain manner. So the question is not whether we should close or not. When we come to the conclusion we have to close the activity, it is not against the people. It is the recognition we cannot continue those activities and therefore be in a position to generate the means to pay decent salaries. But then when we close down those activities, we do it with two commitments. The first one is we will find a new future, professional future for everyone. And that commitment takes several years. So for everyone at Cholet or Vannes, if they want to stay at Michelin, they can stay at Michelin, but they would probably have to move. Or if they want to stay in the same location, we will find a way for them to find a new stable professional future. And we have done always that, and it will be easy. And the second commitment is we, as the plant is also part of an local ecosystem, we are committed through a subsidiary called Michelin Développement to regenerate as many jobs as the one we have suppressed. So we always take those two commitments. We've always done it, and we will continue doing it. And it's the same thing. It's when things are okay, decent wage. When things are not okay, we have to restructure, but we do it in a proper manner.
Okay, you've spoken quite a bit about workers, and I'd like just to continue the conversation about workers with your perspective on Michelin's human and social model in relation to work. Work constitutes a quite fundamental aspect of human existence, and the meaning of work is something that's quite elusive. When you think about individuals and their sort of the way they strive to find meaning in their lives, we often relate ourselves and our life back to work. Research on work meaningfulness suggests that workers more and more seek work that's viewed as purposeful, that's viewed as worthwhile, that they desire more balance and flexibility, and that they want to feel positive about their company's social commitments. Michelin's human and social model is key to the company's commitment to sustainable mobility, but how does Michelin's human and social model address the meaningfulness of work?
First, we share this, nobody is forced to work. At Michelin, everybody, every morning, can decide to work with Michelin or not. So it's sometimes there is a confusion. Sometimes when you need a salary, and especially now, if you take France, for example, you're not forced to work at Michelin. You have other choices. So that's the first element. And then, of course, when you work, it is not a transactional relationship with your corporations. It is not just performing tasks. You need to understand that you're developing yourself through the work. And by this nice exchange of you developing yourself, executing some task and performing your job, you are going to develop Michelin. And then in return, Michelin will allow you to develop and therefore to grow in Michelin. So that exchange works nicely, provided that people understand why they're performing the task. And we measure, every year we have a survey for every employee around the world, and we ask 132,000 people from every level in the company. We have a set of 80 questions, and we ask them, are you happy to do one of the questions is, are you happy to perform the job you're performing? And are you happy with your manager? Are you happy with the company? Do you understand the strategy? Do you understand what the management is telling you, etc.? So we take care of the mental health of everyone, and it is very important. Now, if you do something that does not mean anything to you, human beings, it creates anxiety. When you're performing a task, a mechanical task, without understanding what it is used for, then it becomes a big problem, and the anxiety and the mental health is going to be, I'm convinced it is one of the main challenges we face as corporations. At Michelin, we have said from the beginning, every business will be measured against three realities. You cannot oppose the economic performance, the people development, and the planet stakes. People, when they leave the work, they live in the society, they live in the planet. So making sure that Michelin has a positive impact on the planet is absolutely crucial. So that when people perform the job, they understand that when they are outside of Michelin, it's okay for where they live and for the resources they will use, that Michelin is using is not harming them outside of Michelin. And then the economic performance and the people development, they are in sync. If you care about developing people, in return, they are performing. In return, they generate the means, and economic performance is indispensable to invest, to develop, to redeploy what you have to do, and to be able to generate the means that will allow people to develop, and then people will allow planet. So it's very simple. The thing is not to manage people, profit, planet separately. It's the end that is the magic, is how do you perform in the 3 dimensions at the same time. And we say, so when we review the business, when I review any business, when I go in a plant, when I see a commercial team somewhere, I always review them under 3 parameters, people, profit, planet, at the same level. I say, what's in it for the people, what's in it for the planet, and what's in it for the corporation. And those are intimately linked. And that gives a lot of meaning in the work people perform, because they understand that they have in the tasks they perform a positive impact on those 3 dimensions at the same time.
So we had a debate just before about how to govern purpose-based organizations. And so how do you organize the conversation with the supervisory board, the board, and how do you create the governance around the incentives for the top managers so that this purpose, and not just the top manager, for everybody, so that this purpose is material and considered as being fairly achieved by everybody?
So it's a journey. It's never exactly the way we would like it to be, but those, for example, measuring the performance. Whether I measure the performance on a month or on a year or on a 5-year or on a 10-year, it's always those 3 items: people, profit, planet. And we always look at the 3 elements, and we look at the connection between those elements. So, for example, we have developed electric curing. Electric curing is you can cure tires differently, consuming 7 times less energy with the same way of curing. It's better for the planet. It's better for the people because when you steam cure tires, it's very hot. When you electric cure them, it's not warm anymore, and it's much easier to manage for the people. And then for the company, 7 times less energy is far less expensive, and therefore everybody finds the right equilibrium. So we look at that all the time. And then the best way between the purpose, we see whether it's aligned. Is the strategy aligned with what we want to do? Are we contributing to our dream, or are we moving outside of it? And so we look constantly at the alignment between the ambitions, and we have sets of ambition: 1 month, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And we look, and we have milestones, and we look at them on those 3 dimensions all the time.
Okay, thank you very much, Florent. I think it's time for the audience to raise questions. So who'd like just to raise questions? I think, so Rupert has one. Please, another person, because we have another mic. Yeah, so Rupert, go.
Florent, thank you very much. Really interesting, lots to pick up on. But I have a question which I'm hoping it's not too left field, but I'm interested in your perspective on this. One of the most shocking things that has happened in the business world in the last few months is the killing of Brian Thompson, the UHC chief executive in New York. The disturbing and kind of intriguing thing about this is the support that the killer had on social media, Luigi Mangione. He was regarded as somewhat of a folk hero with his manifesto being published online. And the relevance to today is that the focus of that sort of lionizing was on the fact that he had a purpose, and that actually the chief executive of UHC was, in his words, not manifestly living the stated purpose of UHC, which was to help people and make lives better. How do you as a global CEO think about that? How does it change the narrative on how you approach purpose, alignment, authenticity, all of the above?
Sometimes I have the question, another question, which comes to the same, the one you're asking now. Is some people ask me, what keeps you awake at night? And for me, the real issue for me is social cohesion. And it's true within Michelin, but it's true as well in the society. And right now, what is happening with technology is bringing anxiety right in your pocket all the time. You're informed instantly on everything that happens in the world, but we have not prepared human bodies to cope with that. And there are many things that circulate through this massive flow of information that are false. And people have not been prepared. And human beings can be the best and the worst to human beings. And unfortunately, here we have just the worst happening. But it's also the biggest issue when we talk about social cohesion, the biggest issue as a society is the fragmentation. We are right now, we have movements that are fragmenting the world, and we live on the same planet. When there is always this picture when you're an astronaut, when you see Earth, we are so small in a huge cosmos, and therefore we live on the same planet, and we fight each other, we kill each other on the same planet. It doesn't make sense. Now, but unfortunately, human beings, for reasons of power, access to resources, can be the worst for the other human beings. So there, for me, the only way to respond to that is education. We just need to help people be better educated. The biggest issue is our social cohesion that leads to this kind of movement. Unfortunately, that there are really a lot of disasters happening, and when another human being harms another human being, it's the worst that can happen.
That's absolutely true. I mean, but the question I was hoping to get some engagement on is this question of whether the corporations, major corporations, are using this as a wake-up call to think about their purpose and whether they live their purpose in real time, because that's what connected for Luigi Mangione.
At Michelin, social cohesion is at the top of our agenda, so we spend every day to make sure our social cohesion is strong. So therefore, at Michelin, we think we are better prepared because we have a purpose, but it's not the purpose on itself is not enough. It means that we are, for example, working on toxic management. That happens. And toxic management many times is because people are not facing their fears, or they're coping badly with their fears. And human beings, we all have fears. So we never talk in businesses about fears. I talk a lot about my fears. As human beings, we all have fears. And that's the reason why we've been surviving so long. It's because we have fears. And courage only starts when you face your fears. But in corporations or in the society, if you cannot express your fears, how can you interrelate with others? And human beings are sets of emotions. And therefore, we just need to recognize that it's not good or bad. It's just us as human beings. That's the way we are. And therefore, we just need to accept this. And through education, what happens, and through corporations, we spend a lot of time just helping people manage their own emotions. In order for a relationship to work, you need to be okay, the other one has to be okay, and the relationship has to be okay. 3 okays. It's very difficult. It looks very simple, but it's very difficult to achieve. But the first element is you have to be okay. The person that unfortunately killed the other one was not okay with himself. And that's the big problem. He was not able to manage his own emotions. So therefore, then it's a big problem. And what is happening right now is we have a big issue because the technology goes much faster than the adaptation of human beings. And it's true within Michelin as well. So we have doubled our effort in training over the past 10 years because of that. Because we say we want to train more people. And a lot of the training is about emotions. It's about recognizing you as human beings. There are many things that you need to understand better, and it starts with yourself. So we spend a lot of time in coaching. We have a systematic coaching of our top 600 managers so that they don't behave like toxic managers. And therefore, creating within the organizations a lot of rippling effect of this toxic management. And that's what happens in many corporations. So, but the good thing at Michelin is we are not exactly a democracy. So, because we are driven by a purpose, and we are driven by a mission, and we spend a lot of time asking people what they think, but at the end, our purpose is bigger than everyone's feelings. And we say to people, you're either comply with you adhere to our values and our purpose, or we're not saying you're good or bad, or you do it elsewhere. You go elsewhere. And it's okay. And we have no harm, no things. But if you work at Michelin, you have to adhere to that. That's why it's not exactly a democracy.
Thank you.
Next question, so yes.
Thank you so much for all your practical insights, especially as a researcher. That's very, very valuable. I'm wondering about the dark side of purpose. And therefore I would like to ask you, from your practical experience, what would you say, what kind of consequences, maybe even unintended negative consequences, have you ever experienced after implementing and advocating for purpose in your company?
Yeah. Sometimes we had that everybody was talking about purpose, and everybody was spending their time at purpose, and at some time I had to whistle and say, yeah, hey guys. Of course purpose will help us, but it's not the only thing we have to do. We have to perform our work. And we have to make sure that Michelin works. And the purpose helps us to make it work better, but we have to do more stuff. So it means that we have to perform tasks, we have to do things, and sometimes we don't have to just, it's not a fire chat about purpose. It's important to be able to allow that to happen, but we also have things to do. And the dark side is when you forget this. And we have a very strong push in front of the world complexity. The only way is to activate collective intelligence. The only way you can manage the complexity in Michelin, we think, is enhancing collective intelligence. So it means that giving a sense of purpose, why we do things, but it's not only that. It's defining many other attributes, but a key element is empowerment. And empowerment is allowing people to access to the responsibility of what they do, but we forget very often that empowerment with responsibility comes accountability. And sometimes there is misunderstanding. Of course, we give more responsibility, but with that responsibility, you get accountability. And we spend when there are misunderstandings, people have forgotten the accountability part. They want to exercise the responsibility without the accountability that goes with it. So the dark side is when we forget many aspects of the same subject. So purpose is not everything. Purpose is just tells you why we are working together. It doesn't say what you do. It doesn't drive everything you do. But you refer to the purpose in critical moments. So if I take COVID, for example, on a Sunday midday, I received a phone call from the group industrial director who told me, Florent, I have a problem. I cannot ensure the safety of our people in our plants anymore. It goes, the COVID is spreading too widely, etc. And he said, okay, what should I do? At that time, I did not refer to a manual and process or things like that. I came to the purpose. I said, okay, now, if our purpose is to care about giving people a better way forward, if they get COVID as they work, it's totally incompatible. So then I decided to shut down all our plants across Europe, and knowing that the following week, every plant around the world will stop. And I took that and I said, it's better to do that so that we can spend our time making sure that we put in together the processes so that people can return to their plants safely, rather than having them work and risking death as they were performing the task. At that time, referring to the purpose was important. But there are many tasks every day where I don't refer to the purpose. I refer to the process. Accounting, for example, purpose has nothing to do with accounting. Cheating on account, no. Cheating, yes, yeah, that refers to the purpose. You see, we have to manage the purpose. Is not everything. It's very important, but there are many things that are not related to purpose.
And so the last question.
So Pascal Ronfard from Biochar FR. So I have a question on, you mentioned on the purpose, the impact on the planet. So I have one precise question on the carbon credit system. Do you support it? What do you think about it? And do you buy carbon credit, or will you buy carbon credits?
So I think in principle, the carbon mechanism is a very good way of assessing, sort of leveling the playing field around the world. So the principle of carbon value is very important. And by the way, we have implemented within Michelin a carbon price on everything we do. We started 10 years ago. And we have started with €50 per ton. And we have, at that time, we've measured that no decisions were influenced by €50. So we moved it up to €100, and it started to move at €200 per ton. So the carbon mechanism principle, I think, is very good and very sound to help us better manage some projects. Now, the way it is implemented in Europe is completely stupid. So we agree in principle, we disagree completely in the way it's done. Because it's done only on raw materials now. So if you want to kill the industry that transforms raw materials in Europe, you apply this CBAM, the carbon mechanism. Many instances in Europe, the principle is good, it goes in the right direction, the execution is awful. And it is opposite to the benefit you want to create. Instead of creating a level playing field, what you do is you incentivize people to transform your raw materials around Europe and to massively export those semi-finished or finished products into Europe that will not be exposed to those carbon taxes. So it's really, the execution is bad, the principle is very good.
So what will Michelin do? So,
but at Michelin we have a €200 per ton, and we change. So for example, for a boiler, it's much more expensive to do a boiler based on the coal than if you do a boiler on gas or if you do a boiler on electric. And it varies on different countries around the world. But so that mechanism is helping us managing this. And on carbon mechanism, we have said we will apply the rule, but we know that a lot of our suppliers are very heavy on energy, and they are transforming raw materials, and for them the cost is very high. And we cannot pay much more because of the CBAM mechanism. So what we know is that some of our suppliers are moving outside of Europe because of that. And we said to Europe, it's bad to do that.
So thank you. So we're getting to closure of the day just before the cocktail. So before giving a range of applause to Florent, I'd like just to share with you just a few last information. So first of all, on the you have the QR code just to get access to all the different content of the day, the research papers, the executive education programs that you have also at HEC Paris for those who are interested. I'd like also just to, of course, thank Lisa for joining me for the fireside, all the presenters of today, of course, the people who travel from Polyme to join us in this Purpose Day initiative. I want to thank, of course, the Oxford team, Rupert and everybody from Oxford to have joined us. I want to thank definitively Romain for participating in this. I want to say also that at HEC SNO, we have several institutes, and on the March 28th, you have another day, which is the Inclusive Economy Day. So if you are interested, you can find this on the web page. And before thanking Florent for sharing his thoughts and experience on purpose, there's one last person that we all need to thank, which is Iris, which is the organizer of everything that is taking place here. So you should not stop, because now it's the final round of applause for Florent. Merci
Thank you.
Florent for being here.
Thank you.
And so now time for cocktail.